In this video, we're going to talk about the idea of absolute advantage, and we're going to see it in action. Absolute advantage occurs when one nation can produce a product at lower cost relative to another nation. What this means is using the same amount of resources, land, labor, capital, one producer can produce a good at a cheaper absolute cost than somebody else. What we use to illustrate this is called the two country, two good model. So let's say in the world there are two countries and there are two goods that these countries can produce and consume. The two countries we're going to see are France and Germany. They can each produce two goods, cheese and sauerkraut. In France, a single worker can produce either 5 wheels of cheese or 2 tubs of sauerkraut. In Germany, an equivalent worker using the equivalent resources can produce 1 wheel of cheese or 7 tubs of sauerkraut. So what we've done is we've put what each country can produce in the table here. Now the question is, who can produce cheese at a lower absolute cost? Well, using the same amount of resources, the same level of resources, France can produce 5 wheels of cheese to Germany's 1. In this case, France has an absolute advantage in producing cheese because they can produce more using the same resources. So France has the absolute advantage in cheese. With sauerkraut, France produces 2 units of sauerkraut and the same resources that Germany uses to produce 7 units of sauerkraut. In this example, Germany would have the absolute advantage in sauerkraut because it can produce more using the same resources. So Germany does indeed have the absolute advantage in sauerkraut. Now with absolute advantage, what we can do is show that if each country specializes in the good that they are better at producing, they can both be better off than if they were producing by themselves. Let's assume that France and Germany don't know that each other exists. They are working in a vacuum by themselves. We know that France could produce 5 wheels of cheese or 2 tubs of sauerkraut. Let's assume that France has 50 workers in their country. And France likes both cheese and sauerkraut, so they split their workforce right down the middle. Each good has 25 workers producing them. If that's the case, what is France's total output? Well, knowing that a single worker can make 5 units of cheese, and we have 25 workers making 5 units of cheese apiece, we can find out that they could make 25 times 5, 125 wheels of cheese. In the same boat, they have 25 workers producing sauerkraut. Each worker can produce 2 sauerkraut. 25 times 2 is 50 sauerkraut. So France, by itself, right now, making these assumptions, can produce and consume 125 wheels of cheese and 50 tubs of sauerkraut. Now let's see what Germany can do using the same assumptions. If we recall, they can produce 1 wheel of cheese or 7 tubs of sauerkraut using a worker. With 25 workers on each, let's find out what Germany can produce. Knowing that each worker in Germany can only produce 1 wheel of cheese, if we have 25 workers on cheese, we will have 25 times 1, 25 cheese. With the sauerkraut, we know that each worker can produce 7 tubs of sauerkraut. So if we have 25 workers producing sauerkraut, they can produce 25 times 7, 175 tubs of sauerkraut. So here we see what Germany can produce and consume working in a vacuum all by themselves. Well, all of a sudden, France and Germany say, hey, there's some other type of people over there. I wonder what they're like. And after some time, they find out that, hey, France does indeed have an advantage when they produce cheese. They can make more of it. Maybe it's even a little bit better. France also realizes that, hey, Germany can make some mean sauerkraut. And they can do a lot. They can make a lot of sauerkraut. And some of their smartest, most economical minds think and say, well, how about if we, in France, just produce cheese and you in Germany just produce sauerkraut? I think we could find a way to both be better off. So let's see what happens if France puts 50 workers on cheese and Germany puts 50 workers on sauerkraut. With France, we know that each worker can produce 5 wheels of cheese. 5 times 50 is 250 cheese. We know that in Germany, each worker can produce 7 tubs of sauerkraut. 7 times 50 is 350 sauerkraut. The question we should pose to ourselves, is there more cheese and sauerkraut in the world than existed before they decided to specialize in trade? In France, they produced 125 wheels of cheese. In Germany, 25 wheels of cheese. For a total in the world of 150 wheels of cheese. If France specializes, do we have more cheese in the world? Yes, 250 is greater than 150. On the other side, sauerkraut. France produced 50 tubs of sauerkraut. Germany produced 175. Together, that would be 225 tubs of sauerkraut. If Germany specializes, they can produce 350 tubs of sauerkraut. Is that more than 225? Yes. Yes, it is. So what we can see is, so far, absolute advantage tells us that we can specialize in what we have an absolute advantage in and produce a greater amount of these two goods. Now, let's see if France and Germany can truly be better off if they specialize in trade. So here we see again what France is producing and what Germany is producing. Now that we've specialized in what we produce, we should be able to trade and be able to consume a greater amount of cheese and sauerkraut than we did before. France says to themselves, well, before we specialized, we consumed 125 wheels of cheese and 50 tubs of sauerkraut. So we want to at least be able to consume more cheese and sauerkraut than we did originally. So we're willing to trade 100 cheese to Germany. Germany says, you know what? We used to be able to produce and consume 175 tubs of sauerkraut. We would like to be able to consume more than that. So we want to at least be able to consume 200 tubs of sauerkraut. So we're willing to trade up to 150 tubs of ours. If they do this, will both countries be made better off? We can see that after trade, France will consume 150 wheels of cheese, 150 tubs of sauerkraut. Germany will consume 100 wheels of cheese and 200 tubs of sauerkraut. Are they consuming at a greater amount of both cheese and sauerkraut than they were before? If we think back, 25 workers on cheese and 25 workers on sauerkraut in France produced 125 cheese and 50 sauerkraut. They are indeed consuming at a greater level than they did before. But how about Germany? We know that they were able to produce and consume 25 wheels of cheese and 175 tubs of sauerkraut. Are they producing more and being able to consume more? Absolutely. So what we've just illustrated is, with absolute advantage, we can specialize in a good, produce a greater amount, and trade our excess to be better off. Remember, countries, people, anyone will voluntarily trade as long as they are made better off because of it. What we're going to take a look at next is the idea of opportunity cost.